Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming into another video. So I just got to watching the highlights of yesterday's Timberwolves versus Clipper game, Timberwolves and Clipper game. And the reason why that's significant is because I went over there for one thing and ended up walking away with something else. Um, what I wanted to see was Anthony Edwards. I had read somewhere that he had some fantastic defensive sequences and was able to show exactly how great he was. And he had a good game. He did. He played well. The Timberwolves won. But it was the Clippers that actually stood out for me. It's particularly what I saw in the fourth quarter. Uh, they ran their offense through Isaiah Hartenstein. On this channel, I've talked about Isaiah Hartenstein for almost a year now. I discovered him back when he was with with the Cleveland Cavaliers, as a player who was very productive for me on my fantasy team. Blah blah blah. You've heard the spiel if you followed the videos, and ultimately, I've been following to see how his free agency would go, and throughout free agency, I'm sitting there waiting and seeing what would happen. I didn't think it would go right away, but it was like he wasn't getting the offers, and I'm like, no, for the type of production, type of player he is, the NBA got this wrong. He should have more suitors. And it was rumored he was going to Brooklyn. I was like, he'd help them. Didn't work out in Brooklyn. He ends up at the Clippers. And Ty Lue got a hold of this dude, and Ty Lue put him in a position to facilitate the basketball, the team himself, down the stretch in the fourth quarter, and he was making dimes. I did not know he had that in his game. Now, I knew he did a whole lot of everything because the stats told me that. But when I did homework on him, it was preliminary work from when he was a rookie. So he had slow feet. He didn't have his conditioning together. His conditioning is where it needs to be. He's moving faster now. And what they did was they put that ball in his hands and they let him work from the top of the key, making plays for people who were cutting around him, sort of like Jokic, and it worked. He could facilitate the offense for the Clippers. Now, understand, this changes things for me because that's the problem with the Clippers. They have issues with facilitating the basketball because they can't seem to get a point guard down there who can do those things. Now, they got Eric Bledsoe down there, but we know that he's not that. We saw that when he was with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's not that. Um, but if they can find a decent facilitator in Isaiah Hartenstein, if he can, well, better than decent from what I saw in them highlights, if he can make those type of dimes on a consistent basis, Zubac is going to sit down. That's going to be your starter, and he's going to be very important because he's going to do that for you. And with Ty Lue, like I said, as his coach, they may be able to turn him into that very thing. Like, I'm not saying he's going to turn into Jokic because you can't turn into Jokic, but you can use players like they used Jokic in Denver. And they've kind of given us a blueprint on how do you survive without a real point guard, but that dynamic in your lineup with your center. So it can be done. We saw it with Vlade Divac as well, back with the Sacramento Kings. You see it with other players as well. I know Chicago used to use Joakim Noah that way as well. So guys can do it at that center position. You don't necessarily need to pass first one, point guard. You can find that in other areas, and the Clippers have found that in Isaiah Hartenstein. So I really do believe he's going to take that starting spot from Zubac. That's happening. I'm telling you, that's happening because I like Zubac a lot, but he's a limited player at the end of the day. He's really nice. His conditioning is where it needs to be. He looks like he's ready to go. Ain't nothing wrong with him. He's gonna be who he is, but he doesn't do what Isaiah did. He ain't making them type of dimes like that. And the Clippers, quite frankly, just need somebody to help facilitate the basketball. If they found that in this dude, look out. Look out, because I like the dynamic of them having a Jokic-like center in their lineup with the type of players that they have. Paul George, who cuts better than Paul George? Who catches and shoots better than Paul George? Not many. Terrence Mann is fantastic at that. I was looking at guys like B.J. Boston, who was playing well out there. They got some new guys, too. I'm not sure the name, but he did some fantastic athleticism. So things like that, just real nice plays that I saw from the Clippers out there, even though they were on the losing side of that game. I'm very intrigued by what they're putting on the floor because my issue with them has always been for this particular season that I didn't like their circumstances. They don't have any picks going into next season, so if they don't basically win a championship, it's just a lost season. But not if they keep finding these kids all over the place. Not if the B.J. Bostons are going to play well, the Isaiah Hartensteins are going to play well. Now that suddenly they do have a bunch of young players that give them a win later vibe about their team. And what that means is it's almost like when Golden State was finding players like Jordan Poole and so on and so forth. Wanna, Toscano, Anderson, and things like that. When they first found those guys, and the type of situation was that they were waiting for Clay to come back, et cetera, et cetera. When they put themselves in a position to really use those players a lot, they found that those guys could do something for them. Now they're seeing here at Clipperland, they might have that same dynamic with some of these young players as well. So even though they're not really playing for nothing if Kawhi doesn't come back and lead them to a championship, they don't have that lottery pick. But these players will be returning the next year better for playing this season. So my outlook on the Clippers is absolutely upside down to what it was when I made the video on the Clippers, just simply because I didn't realize at the time how well they would be able to find certain things out of these players. But when you have a great coach, and Ty Lue he is a great coach. When you have a great coach, they will find things. They will find what they need to find to make something happen. And boy, Isaiah Hartenstein, if he turns into what it looked like he was going to be in that fourth quarter, if he can continue to do that, he could be the most improved player in all of basketball. Like, honestly, if they use him like I saw them use him in that fourth quarter, I think they should keep going to that. And see what happens, because that was all good. I think that dude had like 4 straight assists, and they were all just fantastic passes to cutters in the paint. It was really, really, really impressive. So, yeah, that was something that stood out really, really dramatically, and I wanted to bring that to you guys since I've been talking about this player a lot. So anyway, that's what I got, man. My name is BDL44. Thank y'all for watching.